Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Runners Roundtable. We're season 5. It's hot topics and hot takes. And this episode is going to be dedicated to our current running boom. And I am so incredibly grateful to be joined by Kelly Roberts. Badass Lady Gang is in the house. And I'm so excited to have you here because I'm probably like many people who know of you. I started following you after the half marathon
Oh,
because your name, so it's been over a
long
decade
time.
now,
Yeah.
right? Like it's been over a decade. And I just remember, I think it was on Good Morning America you were featured. And after that, I was like, who is this person? And let me follow. And it's been so neat to kind of grow in this space parallel to you because I've seen you go from here you are taking pictures of hot guys on this course to you've created an entire community from that, right? Like it's not I feel like it's very rare to see someone have a viral moment about themselves and somehow shift it to create a moment for everyone. And that's why I think you're so perfect for this discussion on running boom because running is growing. But my question is always how do we grow in a way that is inclusive and does create a sense of community versus it just being like, oh, here's another person in the sport, but we're disconnected from everyone and everything. And all we're doing is chasing our own goals. So that's my introduction to you. And I just want to say it's been really, really just again beautiful to see that you took this moment that was about you and created something for everyone. And that's just I think it's incredible. So I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to us and whatever that means for you, while also telling us what's your current relationship with running right now.
You're so generous. Thank you. That's such a sweet opening. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Kelly Roberts. I'm a runner, of course, first and foremost. I am also a community founder. I founded the Badass Lady Gang, which is a by and for women and people who identify as women running community. We like to say we're by and for the ladies. And what we do is very different. It was born out of the very early stages of this running boom. I think we're seeing the biggest of it right now, post COVID, but there really was a huge resurgence in communities running, road racing, at least here in New York City specifically, and I would say larger global, impact because I was definitely watching it from when I first started running and started watching blogs because that's what we had were blogs. We didn't have social media to watch or we didn't have YouTube to watch. We had blogs in 2012 when I started running. And from even 2012 to 2014 when I went viral and started creating just by from when I started in March through the end of that year, there was a bit of a shift. I would say I was starting to see more people use social media, not in the way that we see it now. I think a big part of that was because of resources. I think you really did need to know how to tell a story and how to capture because we only had images. Like we could you there was no place to share video.
Mm-mm.
There wasn't anywhere where to share video until like fairly recently. And even still,
Oh, I'm the one with the internet. Hold on.
gonna share on Instagram for 15 seconds with like your crappy box. So TikTok really changed everything. But for a long time, I think that's why inclusion was so limited was too many people couldn't share their experience. There was nowhere to share it. You could blog, but like I always said I kind of had a fast pass. It kind of comes down to that. Like, I don't know if you ever listened to How I Built This, that podcast, that NPR
Mhm.
podcast, or like anything like that. That I always think it's so fun to listen to really, really, really successful people talk about whether they think it's luck or hard work. And I think it's just semantics. They all say the same exact thing. Though I do think there is a little bit of the people who do acknowledge that sometimes the cards just fall a certain way. Other times it is. Other times
Yeah,
it's a combination of the two. But like, I don't think anyone builds anything without hard work. Like that's innate, you know? Nothing gets done without hard work. I don't think it takes away from that, but like I've been incredibly lucky. I had I was in the right place at the right time to go viral. You know, like I did something kind of stupid. It wasn't that smart and it wasn't that funny. It was silly and funny, and it came at a time where there were very slow news weeks. Like I think had I done it, well, that's not true. I still go viral now. I don't know. I don't know if I would. I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it did happen and we are here. So, you know, like I always think I had a little bit of a fast pass in that, like, I went viral and then I had friends at GMA. I had friends that I went to camp with who were segment producers who put me back on Good Morning America 2 or 3 times every time I would do it at a race. So, like, the first time was luck. And, like, yes, I did go mega, mega viral, like, worldwide. But the next couple of times, I had help. Like I had people who were like, "Oh, Kelly, remember me? We went to, this theater camp together. I now work at GMA. Like we're going to put you up again. Can you send like the second you have those images, can you send them to me?" So like a little bit of a help. So I don't know, like for a long time there was like 5 of us. I felt like there truly was 5 or 7 influencers in the running world. And then TikTok happened and boom, now we've got hundreds, hundreds and it's good, like we have people of all shapes and sizes and colors and ages now being represented, except other than our 3 token Black people and then the rest of us white girls, which was what it was, which is not good. That's not running. And that it's bad that that was like that for as long as it was. Running has a problem. It's not safe to run in America for most people. I think it
hmm
is insane to pretend that it is and that like running is this like gorgeous sport where you just need a pair of shoes and you're on your way. Like that's not how it works. If you have tits, you need a very expensive sports bra. You need shoes. Like there's safe places to run. There's so many different barriers for people to move their bodies. So running's in a very interesting spot with this running boom. It's cool to see. It's cool to be a part of, but I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if I
yeah,
answered your question.
yeah, you did. And also, just the second question was, what's your relationship with running right now?
Hmm. Happy. I mean, I feel like I'm in a much healthier place. For a long time, it wasn't that healthy, and I have much better boundaries with myself and my work. I'm in a weird spot with running, or I was in a weird spot with running because I found running in 2012, and by 2014, it became my full-time job, kind of.
Wow.
So I didn't get to become a runner. I became a professional in the sport. And this thing that I had found that was sort of helping me run from my problems, which is what it was for a long time. It's why I loved it so much. Like it was really helping me not do the work that I needed to do to like grieve my brother who had passed away, really work on my eating disorder. It was a band-aid for that. So all of these things that I wasn't ready to deal with, running sort of gave me a couple of years until I needed to figure it out. But on the, plus side, I found a career. And on the negative side, this thing that I loved no longer became my love. It became stressful. Running became very stressful and hard. And I spent my entire 20s trying to figure it out. So I almost lost it. Like I definitely almost stopped running and was ready to be done. I mean, I'm ready to quit what I do every 3 weeks. This is a nightmare. It's awful. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't know what else I would do. So like it's a very vicious cycle. And for a workaholic, like I struggle to find balance. That's where I am in therapy right now is finding balance. In
Yeah,
in case anyone was wondering.
I've no, not the same, but similar because I feel like running is such a metaphor for life. So
Yeah.
running is that thing that it m- makes me think a lot of motherhood in my case.
Hmm.
And a couple of years back, I realized that balance was impossible. It was
Oh
never
yeah.
going to happen because there are certain things in life that are just always going to take over. Like if there's an emergency in that, and for me, it's motherhood, right? There's an emergency with my kids. there goes everything else I had planned. So now I've reframed it and said, okay, I'm just looking for harmony. I know balance isn't possible, but how can I harmonize the different things that are in my life so that I at least feel good about it? Knowing that there's always going to be something that's not going to get as much attention and that it's okay and it's a season. And I think that's really hard, especially as a runner. It's really hard to be okay with those seasons when you have to pull back, whether because your body needs rest or because you're injured or because there's nothing on the calendar. And it's just hard. So it's like, for me, it's like, I try, I'm like, I know balance doesn't exist. So like, what are the mental tools that I need to use to kind of be okay with how life is turning out? Because life is full of
Chaos.
jokes. Yeah, life is full of jokes. It's just that. So I want to thank you for answering those questions because it's so interesting. I started on Instagram in 2012. And I think what you're referring to is, yes, the photos, but it was very much so storytelling. Like I was on there to share my journey. Like it was like, here I am, I'm working out, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to do all of that. Whereas now, I, I to be fair, I'm only on Instagram. So I don't know TikTok. I don't know, what
TikTok is
those,
life. It's the
yeah,
best.
I don't know what those
It's
communities
so great.
are like. I don't know what those communities are like. My kids are into it. So it's like, I'm like,
I'm sure they are.
I'm like, am I just, I get easily overwhelmed with
Oh,
social.
TikTok is not for you. TikTok's not for anyone. It is a dangerous place.
That's why I'm like, I get easily overwhelmed. So I can only handle one social media thing. And even then, I feel like sometimes my consumption of it is not entirely healthy. But
Oh, totally.
that's a totally different conversation because the running boom. So I feel like I came about in that first or in that particular running boom in 2012. I ran my first marathon in 2014. I feel like I had no clue what I was doing, but it was all so fun. Like I just wanted to see what I could
Yeah.
accomplish. And then through social media, because it was greater access to runners from all over the place, I started, I guess to put it nicely, I started chasing goals that weren't right for me.
Oh,
And then I
interesting.
would
Like
get,
what?
oh my gosh, like I thought I wanted time goals that really just did
Were
not.
you seeing them online and you were like, oh, I should want that too?
Oh yeah, I saw like everyone was getting faster.
Mm.
Everyone was, and back in that time, and I'm sure you can agree with me, but back in that time, it was all the runners, or a good majority of the runners with really big followings, were very fast runners, or they were, at least that's what was on my particular
Yeah,
feed.
if you don't mind me asking, who were you watching?
Oh my gosh. Shoot. I would have to like go back. I know it was like a lot of pro runners.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just always so curious who like well, like over the years who everyone's
ooh,
been watching.
that's great. I've never been asked that question. I'm like, I'm trying to go back through
Oh,
my
I always ask.
Rolodex. I love that. I'm trying to go back through that Rolodex, and I'm like, okay, who was I following back then?
Remind me where in the country you are?
Miami, Florida.
Okay. I'm trying to think who's like
Miami,
Miami.
Florida. Yeah, it wasn't anyone local. It was definitely people outside of Miami. Um, but also, there were a lot of the running groups down here at the time were very much so focused on speed,
Like the
on
Nike groups?
like Nike, some local groups. It was all very much like speed, like we are training every single race is an opportunity for a PR
Yeah.
mentality. And again, like the runners at the time, and I'm trying to think, like I can think of a few people, but I'm like, I don't want to call them out
You don't
because
have to, you don't have to say, don't worry about it.
I'm like they're on their own journey. But it was again like the runners with large followings they were they quote unquote looked like runners
Yeah.
and they were fast everyone was going after either a Boston qualifying time or like an Olympic trials qualifying time.
Yeah, OTQs were really big from
Oh
16 to
my God,
20.
so huge. And that's kind of,
OTQ is Olympic trial qualifier for anyone who's like, what'd she just say?
yeah. So that was kind of what I was seeing. And I was like, wait, if everyone's doing this and like you're supposed to PR every single race, like
Yeah.
what am I doing and how do I do that? And it took a really, really long time and probably a lot of tears to be like, wait,
Mm.
these aren't my goals. Like, this is not what I want for myself, partly because I don't want to work that hard. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like you had a podcast recently, like this year at some point, where you were talking about mindset. And if it wasn't a podcast, it was on your Instagram page where you have to believe it for yourself, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
believe that. And it took me a really, really, really long time to accept that that just wasn't what I wanted for myself.
Yeah. It
And
feels
that it's
wrong.
yeah, and that it's okay to be in this space and not be that person who's always chasing a PR or not be that person who wants to have specific outcomes at races. Like
Yeah.
and for me personally, I just struggle with like the heat, the humidity, like that is something I will never get over. So
Yeah.
it was that was kind of my where I first started, and Instagram was so new and everyone was just sharing what they were doing. And then all of a sudden, again, for me and what I experienced, there was a switch in that it was all about PRs and fast times
It
and
it was for a long time.
qualifying times. And that's what I thought I wanted. And I tried to do that training. And I was so negative towards myself because I couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
Right. I just like, I
Didn't have
didn't
enough time
know.
in the day.
No, and I didn't know
What
that
do you
you had
mean?
to,
You with kids didn't have as much time and resources as me, a professional with Nike assets and all the time in the world. That's so
or that,
crazy.
or that just, that you're supposed to adjust your
It
paces for
must just be that you weren't trying hard enough,
that.
clearly.
That's seriously,
It
but that's like,
had to be it.
that's what I was like. I was like, I don't know. Like, I
No,
don't
that's how
understand
it's
why I'm not
100%
progressing.
how you feel. Yes.
Yeah. So that was then.
Yeah.
And then I feel like now, or I'd say probably within the last maybe 2 to 3 years, I feel like I'm hearing more people talk about inclusivity and running
Yeah.
and creating safe spaces and running. And I know that those two things, like, I feel like there's three words when I think of Badass Lady Gang, where it's safe, inclusive, and community. And I always feel it's almost, and I've said this to someone else too, where I'm like, sometimes it feels like it's a brave thing to proclaim that those are three of your big values as a group. Does
Yeah.
it feel that way for you?
Yes, because I think there's always going to be a piece of me that like when people say inclusive, like I'm like, we're not inclusive enough, and it's like, yes, we're not, like I'm not going to walk around being like, we're perfect and we got it. We have it figured out. Like we're not inclusive enough at all. In terms of pace, I think we are one of the most inclusive groups out there. But in terms of like diversity, like we're not, we're a very white group. And I'm a white leader and I tend to have a white following. That's my demographic. And, like I'm just one person spread too thin. And it's something that I know is a problem and I keep my tabs on it. And we do our best to work on it every single year. It's not something that I'm like blind to. But yeah, community is really hard. Building a community is really fucking hard, mainly because a lot of people want to belong to a community, but they don't want to work for the community. They don't want to give time for the community. They don't understand what a community does. And when I look at some of the communities that like I really look up to and I wish to emulate, like Boogie Down Bronx is here in New York City, is one of the communities that I think is like I really, really look at what like Hector and that crew is has built and continues to build, and that from the infrastructure that they've, like built from the ground up, to the values of the group, to how they call everyone in to show up for the community. It's not just show up on Tuesdays and then go home. It's like, this doesn't work unless everybody pitches in, which is one thing. Like, I feel like I talk about this a lot. So excuse me if you're like, Jesus Christ, every single time she opens her mouth, she talks about this. I think churches got this right. Like churches are the first people to guilt people into like working for the church and like really asking people to like give their time or give their resources. And I don't think a lot of communities have figured that part out, or like just like point blank said, it's not enough to just show up. If you want this thing to work, like everybody needs to pitch in, pool your resources, whether that's time, people, all this stuff. Cause like the insurance side of it's expensive. The time part of it's expensive and exhausting. Making sure that everyone feels like they're welcome and all that is hard. Making sure, especially with running, which is an inherently difficult thing, to make sure that everyone feels like they're getting the same experience is incredibly difficult. So like there's just a lot of elements that are really hard. So like my first thing to anyone who goes to a community, I always ask them, are you in an audience or are you in a community? Like do you feel like you're showing up as a part of something and experiencing something with people, or do you feel like you are bringing your whole self to your community? Because if you don't feel like it's the latter, you're not in a community, sister. You're in an audience, which is great. And sometimes it's fun to be a part of something. But if you want the all of the great parts about a community, you got to contribute to the community.
I appreciate all of that so much. And I, you're, you're speaking to my heart right now, because community is something that's so incredibly important to me. And yet it is a really, really hard thing to do, because regardless of how committed I am to creating a community, if the people who are in that community are not committed and don't have the same values, it's really hard to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And that's like, that is you're this is like summing up 2025 for me in many, many ways, because at the beginning of the year, I walked away from a community that I had a part in finding. And like, I was one of the original organizers of this community. And it got to a point where it's always challenging, because people will say, we want community, we want community. And then you plan the events and you plan the activities to help build community, but then community doesn't show up,
Yeah.
right? Or community shows up, and I'm not necessarily saying this is what happened in this most recent one. I'm just saying in general, right? Like, you create the event and then the community shows up and they complain about it, right?
Oh,
Or that,
yeah.
like, so it's like, wait, but I don't
Everyone
understand.
loves to complain. My sister just had a baby a year and a half ago, and like just had a big transition period and moved to a different borough in New York City, and like just had the gall to talk about loneliness, and like there's nowhere to meet people. And I would just like look at her like, yeah, that's so true, Sam. No one's doing anything. If only there was a safe place to meet people. Perhaps it could be free. If only that existed. Well, oh well. And I would be like, do you like, this is so offensive. You talking about this, like you're allowed to be lonely and you're allowed to feel like, but like please don't like have conversations with me about like not knowing where to go to make friends when I've literally spent years and years and years of my life creating safe places for women to make friends. I just
Yeah,
would sit there like, are you dumb as dirt? Are you serious right now? What?
that's the oh man, see, I remember that. That is the post baby fog, because I remember when I
Oh,
had
she did it before the baby, though.
okay, I was gonna say, because I remember post baby for me, I wanted mom friends. That
Oh,
was like
yeah,
one of the
she
things.
found it.
Okay, I was gonna say, and
But she went
here,
out and found it. Like, and I was like, that's what you have to do, bro. Like, what do you think? Someone's going to come up to you on a park bench and be like, hey, you want to be my friend? I'm like, that might happen, but like, you have to go find your friends.
yeah, and I
Go
think
show up for people.
And you also have to be okay with maybe the first group you go to is not the group for you, because that
Or
was what
outgrowing each
happens.
other and having
Yeah.
acquaintances. Like, not everybody needs to be a best friend, but like when you go into stuff, like, I'm just excited to see who I meet today. And put yourself out there and put yourself out there again. Like, that's what you need to do. You need to find the baddest lady gangs of the world because there are many, as you know. Like, there are many of us building community. Go find them. You don't need to start anything. Go find a group. There's cooking, there's sewing, there's running, there's bowling, there's anything and everything. Like, that group exists. Go find them. A quick Google. Stop bitching. Get off your ass and go find fucking friends. Show up. Oh my God, everyone loves to fucking bitch.
Yeah. I mean, listen, so this year I started off the year, I call it cocooning because I was so um I'd say in many ways disillusioned with how the community had been playing out. So
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I need to just kind of pull back. And that's what I did. I needed to kind of pull back and just be like, I need to be in solitude at this moment because I have to reflect. I'm big. I spend a lot of time in my head. And I needed the time to kind of reflect on, like, okay, so what does community mean for me? What is important in community for me? What do I want to get out of a community? Like what is nurturing, right? Because not all communities are made the same. Not all communities have, there is a culture to each community. And that's
Definitely.
something that I feel like I've learned there's a culture to every community, and that being open, even though it feels really, really scary, to going and exploring those different communities is the way to find the community. But what I really learned, and you just said it, is that there is enough out there. I don't always have to be the one creating it. Like I
100%.
can go and to what you're saying, right? I can go be in the community and I can participate in the community without having to take a leadership role within the community. Like I can go and just be a part of it. And I think that for me personally was such a weight reliever because I
Yeah.
had been operating for the past few years of, oh, I
Leadership
have to
filled.
create the space. I have to create the space and I have to try to be inclusive and I have to figure it out. And me,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. But at the same time, it's that I'm doing everything, but then what is being given back to me to
Yeah.
nurture my soul, right? Like how am I being nurtured by this community? And it just, in many ways, and again, it's not only within running, it's other communities that I'm a part of as well, that it's like, okay, here I am showing loyalty to a particular community, and there is no regard for me as a person and how I
Yeah.
feel. So it's really, it is challenging, but that recognition of, don't always have to be the one to create it, right? Like someone else, you can join what someone else is creating, and that's okay. And it's also okay to try out different communities and see and go experience what other people are doing and get inspired from that.
Yeah. It's something I miss. I mean, in my early, really early days, like 2016 through 20, like that 4 years, I went to everything. I was going to every run and every group and always doing all the things. And it was so fun. And I had a lot of energy and I was young. And like, I feel like the pandemic happened at a time when I was so ready to pull back and like not do all the things. And so that was such a nice break to stop feeling so obligated to show up for everything in every
Mhm.
space, which was hard because on the one side, like I love being busy, but on the other side, like now I never go to anything and I feel very disconnected from the community. I go to Baddest Lady Gang stuff here and there, but like even that I don't go as much as I used to. I go maybe twice a month to our gang in New York City, but I miss all the group stuff and, all the other stuff. But when I think about where I'm at, it's just not something I need to be a part of anymore. I also feel like a little bit of it was showing up for the sake of showing up.
Mm.
And no one ever showed up for me. No one ever showed up for my spaces. And not to say that my gang didn't show up for me. They did. But I mean, like when I would make an effort to go to other people's stuff, like it wasn't reciprocated.
Yep.
Badass Lady Gang is never invited to stuff in the New York City scene. Like I'm never seen as a pillar of like a leader or like stuff like that, which whatever, it's fine. But I do notice, and I'm always like, I don't understand. Like, I have like tens of thousands of people worldwide in our community. Like, I don't understand why our community is like so much bigger than most of all of these people here. But like, whatever, okay, it's
Hmm.
fine. I'm not very, as much as I may seem pretty like promotey. I promote myself. Like I I just will never fight for myself. It's just not in my nature to like fight to get in a room or fight to be up somewhere. Like I just don't care. It's not it's not a value I have. Like I never have a problem if I can't get in the door of a house, like being like, it's okay because I'm next door. Like we have a tent. And that party is exactly what I want it to be.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think you were always like that?
What?
Like that being okay with not being invited.
Oh no. No, no, no. No, no, no. That was always like a very I would say that's a recent acceptance. Like it definitely hurt my feeling for a long time. And it would be the type of thing that I would like have to come back to like ground myself and like look what you have and look where you are and like just because you're not, seen this way doesn't mean that you're not doing stuff that matters and like it's okay. It's okay. You could step up for yourself if you really wanted to. All you really need to do is ask, "Do you want to?" And it would be like, "No." They'd be like, "Great. Then maybe we don't get to be that bummed about it."
Yeah. And I think that speaks to kind of tying it into this running boom conversation because it's with the increasing number of people who are coming to running, there are more running groups. And I can
Yeah,
say,
so many.
here, so many. And here in my own community, Miami, Florida, there, I feel like 5 years ago, maybe I would have said there's like two,
Three. Yeah.
two or three. And now I
A
mean, I
hundred.
feel like every week there's a different, like a different run club popping up
Yeah.
somewhere. But it's so interesting to me to think about how, again, the layers of not only are new people coming to the running space, but also new running groups coming to the running space. And how are they being accepted and seen within the overall running community?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean,
I always
wow.
think like, do you? The whole point of a group forming is a group of people said we don't have a space. There
Mm-hmm.
isn't a place for us. Right? Like I think a lot of people I know said there is a space for us, but it's 30 minutes away or 40 minutes away. Like I live in Brooklyn and that's in Central Park. I'm tired of going 40 minutes to a place I never run. I want to run in my backyard. Let's start a group here, right? Like a piece of it is convenience.
Yeah.
That's always a piece of community. A piece of it is values, and then a piece of it is people. So I'm always pro more is better. More groups is better. I don't subscribe to the like you run with us and only us kind of, exclusivity that some groups I don't think it's as much of a thing anymore. It definitely was a thing when we were coming up, like in
Mhm.
15, 14, 15, 16. Like exclusivity and who you run with was like a very clicky, cool badge of honor kind of a thing. There were like certain teams and crews and whatever that like just like thrived on this hard to get into, hard to be a part of kind of a thing. Now I see so many more people where like I mean, and this is like a value of Badass Lady Gang. I never want anyone to think like you only run with us. I want you to be able to run with as many groups and people as humanly possible because I just think the running community is better when you're going out and meeting as many different people as possible. I think it should be a thing of convenience. Fitness should be a thing of convenience. You shouldn't be killing yourself for your group. Like you shouldn't be like for time, especially like with a group of women. A lot of people are moms, a lot of people are caretakers, a lot of people are working multiple jobs. I never want run club to stress you out about like I'm lonely and I can't make it happen. I want you to be able to go wherever you want. And that's a good way to bring more people into the fold. So I'm pro more. I'm always pro more. That being said, I do think everyone has a responsibility to lead well and to make sure that you're like looking out for your community and making sure that you're like watching. It's not that fucking hard to like just very quickly ask around, how do I lead a run club? And it's like, you don't run more than two across. You make sure that no one gets left behind. If you are the leader, you are in the back. You know, like something we always tell our leaders is like, this isn't your workout. You're not here to work out. You're cruise director. I would actually bank on never working out. That's kind of the way we operate. So, like, it's okay to have your people work out, but like, make sure that people who are coming have an understanding of what they can expect. It's okay to not be pace inclusive. Just don't say you are. Give people a very firm understanding of what they can expect. It's okay to want to be pace inclusive and to talk about wanting to get there, but to like, if you only have people who are 11-minute milers showing up, don't lump 9 to 11-minute milers together and call them party pace. Have your set groups. There's a difference between 9 and 10. There's a
Yeah.
difference between 10 and 11. Like that's not
Yep.
one pace range. 9 to 9:30 is a big range. And I understand how difficult it is to operate with pace ranges in groups, but like let people understand what they can expect so that if there's going to be one person who's going to finish 15 minutes after everybody and they're going to be alone, they may be totally fine showing up and doing it alone. It's just different if they know what to expect and what they're walking
Yep.
into and that people wait for them versus them showing up being made to feel like, oh, fuck, now we have to wait for you. Oh, are you okay? Like that kind of thing. Like that's what makes people feel like they don't belong. Be good to your communities. Like when I see groups with hundreds of people just taking off, I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You guys are like, you're making us all look bad. It reflects poorly on all of us.
It does. I mean, I'm a big proponent of those of us who are in the running community have the responsibility to welcome new runners into the running
Yeah.
community. And this was a couple of years back, and my gosh, at this point, I think it might have been like 2021 that we were in Orlando going to Disney for whatever reason. And I had a long run to do. And I was like, oh, let me look up the long, like the groups. Let me look up the running groups in the Orlando area. And I found one group that I was like, oh, this group sounds like it's a pretty cool group. I reached out to them and I was like, what time do you start? What are your paces? And of course, all paces welcome. I said, okay, I'm going to show up. I had a longer run to do than the distance they did. So I ran a few miles beforehand, then met up with the group. And it was for a Saturday, it was a pretty large group. Once we started running, I think I was with them for maybe half a mile. And then they all went off, and I was the very last person.
Oh,
And thankfully for me, I'm used to running by myself. So I continued on. I did my run. And when I finished, I was like, oh, let me go to the coffee shop where they all said they would be. And because I finished so far behind everybody, they were actually finishing up their coffee. Like I walked in and they kind of like looked at me. And by the time I got my coffee, they were already leaving. And I was like, oh, okay, this stuff still stings, even though
yeah.
I've been running for as long as I have and I'm okay running by myself. It still stings to show up to a new community where people know that you're new, because that was one of the things we had to introduce ourselves of, like,
Yeah.
they ask, hey, who's here? Like, whose first time is this? And I said, I'm only here for the weekend. I'm originally from Miami. And it's like, okay, so someone knew I was new. And yet, once the run started, everyone was okay with just going off. And, thankfully it was a trail. As I go trail, like there's nowhere else to go. It's just all straight. But
Yeah.
it was one of those things that gave me a moment to pause, because I would always tell people, if you're new to the sport, go to a run club. Like that's such a
Yeah.
great way. And after that experience, and I've had other experiences, I feel like every year I try to go to a run club just to see what it's like.
Yeah.
This past year, I'm batting aces. Like the run clubs that I've gone to this year have been phenomenal.
Nice.
But in previous years, I would go to run clubs and I would get left behind.
Yeah.
And that made me rethink what I was recommending to people of like,
Yeah.
should I really be telling people to go to run clubs? Because it may not be that welcoming, inclusive space that I want people to have. And especially again, now where there's so much more talking about running. I think it was like the London Marathon had 1 million people enter the ballot. So there's a lot of interest in running, but now I'm feeling kind of stuck as to there is more interest in running, but what do we tell people about, I guess, where to run and who to run with so that that initial interest that they have in running continues?
Yeah. I think this is a shared obligation. Like that's one of my pet peeves is people who don't, communities who don't just straight up make it as black and white as possible about what you can expect and who shows up. And obviously there are anomalies that like sometimes you have a huge group and then 5 people join. Like be honest about that. This is not like our normal group. I'm so sorry. We normally have a very like diverse range of paces and today we don't. So I'm going to be with you today and I swear to you like I don't want to be with them. Like I'm really stoked to be with you. Like like set
Yeah.
expectations and let people understand what they're in. And like I do think like especially for me, like it's my responsibility to make sure that people understand like this is a choice for me to be with you. And we're done apologizing for pace or saying you can go, you can go. Like I want to be here. I'm excited to be with you. Like let's have fun. Like we all get to make choices and sometimes people need to do a workout or whatever and like pace is pace and it is what it is. That's one of my pet peeves. The other is like again, it is our shared responsibility to take care of each other. If you are a group that is not having introductions happen, I don't care if you have 5 people or 500 people, if you're not asking everyone to introduce themselves, you are doing it wrong. You are fucking up in leadership. You cannot create spaces where there's that weird, well, I hated doing it in high school and we're not going to do it now. It's too awkward to make people like turn to the person left of them and say, "Hi, my name's Kelly." One fun fact about me, like there's no coolness here. Like if you don't immediately as a culture cultivate walking up to strangers and saying, "Hey, I don't think we've met before. I'm Kelly. What's your name?" Or, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you. I'm so glad you're back." Like it's okay for people not to remember you. If Kelly walked up to you last week and introduced herself and then Kelly walked up to you again and you're like, "Fuck, Kelly, she doesn't remember." No. Some people are terrible at names and faces. Like it's okay to walk up to yourself people 5 times and say like, "Remind me of your name. I'm so sorry. Like we've met before, right?" "Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, your kid goes to blankety blank." Or like, "I remember your mom has cancer and we were talking about that. Like it's so good to see you again. Remind me of your name." Like I know that's crazy. I know your mom has cancer, but I can't remember your name. Like be human. Walk up to people and learn each other's names and introduce yourself. Like I went to a run with like a job that I'm doing last week and I walked in and like did a little icebreaker of like, "Oh my God, everyone looks so miserable." Nothing, crickets. And then I was like doing that thing where you make eye contact with people to like introduce myself. Nothing. Eyes on phones, eyes on the floor. And I was like, what are we doing? None of you know each other. Why is the first thing you do not like acknowledge, introduce? Like it's just so annoying to me. Or when organizers aren't like raise your hand if you don't know anyone. Great. Let's like do some quick like where do you live? Like let's just immediate ice break so that you get a sense of who's here. That stuff drives me bonkers. You want to say you're a community but you're not fostering community. Go for it. You're doing it wrong.
I mean, what you're saying is, and I wrote it down because I'm like, I want to remember this. You cannot create community without connection,
A
right?
hundred
And
percent.
the minute you introduce yourself to someone, because it's happened to me where it's like, or I've gone to a run club and I've been too shy to talk to someone, but then someone speaks to me, all of a sudden, at least for that run club, like that's my friend. And
Yes.
that's my
They're
friend. And
your
I'm going to look
buoy.
out for, yep, I'm
Your
going to like,
lifeline.
yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for you. May never speak to you ever again, especially, if I go to a run club that is not in Miami. It's like, I may never see you again, but for that day, you were my anchor point. Like you were someone
Yeah.
that I either tried to keep an eye on behind me or I tried to keep an eye on because you were ahead of me. Like that made it, that changes the experience because all of a sudden it's, you exist, right? Like you exist to someone. You're not just a nameless face showing up at this community. Like you've actually taken up space in that community. So yeah,
Like
you
life
can't create
skills.
community. It
We
really is.
we are lacking life skills right now of, let's say I introduce myself to someone and they're actually just like someone that I'm not meshing with. Like I don't enjoy being around them. I'm not tethered to this person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, Joanne, it was so nice to meet you. I'm gonna go introduce myself to some other people. I really want to like meet a bunch of people today, but like it was really nice to run with you and like I'll see you around.
Yeah.
Period, full stop. You get to move on. Like you don't, people don't know how to operate in groups. And it's not on us to be like, no one knows how to operate in groups. You have to show them how and like really give them safe places to practice because I think of phones are a piece of it. I think we are a digital generation, like our millennials and plus. We didn't need to operate like Gen X and boomers. So like some people don't have the same skill sets as other people. Let's give them the language and show them how and give them ways to mirror. But like people don't introduce themselves, which is bonkers. We wear name tags at Badass Lady Gang because I can't remember anyone's name to save my life. And it helps me, and I'm assuming it helps everyone else. But also, it's like you can't be cool in a name tag. You look like a fucking idiot. So that's also like a grounding thing. Like, there's no
Yeah.
cool kids at Badass Lady Gang. You're all wearing a dumb name tag. So, like, there's like this immediate leveling. So, and you don't need to wear name tags at Run Club, but like, you do need to be fostering community.
Yeah. And I think that's how you create longevity,
Yeah.
right? Like that's, I mean, I think about it all the time with just hearing people how they'll run a marathon and that was their big goal. And then after that, they're like, okay, I'm done. I'm never running again. And
They're
I'm
called
like,
one and doneers in the
yeah. And I'm
industry.
like, why? I'm like, is it that you didn't have a good race? And not to say, look, I don't, if you do one marathon and you're fine and you're like, I've accomplished that, great. Like, lots of power to you. The people that it almost like breaks my heart is that when they run it and then they're like, yeah, I'm done with running entirely. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, but wait, like, didn't you like the community part? Like the people cheering you on? Like, how about like the just the routines of training and running with people? So I think that it's how do you make running more sustainable for people?
Yeah.
And how do you keep running? How do you keep people in running for a long time? And the running communities are a part of it because they're booming. Like I said, there's run clubs, running groups all over the place. We've got an app down here called Run Addict. So shout out to them. And they list all the run clubs, like Monday
Nice.
through Sunday, like all the run clubs that are happening in South Florida. And I think they have them in, there's like a few run clubs that are in there that are not here. But it's like if I go on today, I can see what are all the run clubs that are happening tonight. And it's at
Yeah.
least 5 different run clubs that
Yeah.
happen every single day. And it's so incredible and it's so wonderful. And it is a testament to the growth of running and the growth of the sport. But I think we're seeing increased numbers and we're seeing increased groups. My question to you is it's growing that way, but in what ways has running not grown as a sport?
Well, I would say a lot of people, like to that point, it's growing in major cities and it is growing worldwide. But like something I've always been really, really, really conscious of is like New York didn't need another running club. Badass Lady Gang became a club because I watched a brand give a deck and where they were investing money and it was in person communities. And I said, oh, well, I guess we're going in person.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're giving the money. And I watched all the data and I listened to the, senior vice president of running talk about what they're doing for the next 3 years. And I said, right, I'm not just going to sit here to this, keynote and be like, I'm here to talk about community. I'm going to say, I need money. I'm going to do what you say you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's a part of why we exist. It was not because I like a just a selfless little girly, like no, I'm a businesswoman. And so like that's a piece of it. Now, foundationally, like I'm a community builder. It's what
Yes.
my
Yeah.
background is in theater. It's just what I've always done. So that's a piece of it. But with Badass Lady Gang, I've always been cognizant that we are not a New York City group. We are
A
mainly,
global.
yeah, United States, but like we are global, and like most of the people in our community don't live places with run clubs. They live in isolating places, or they work schedules that they don't have time.
Mm.
They do not have time to go to club, or the clubs that exist are not inclusive. So I've always been really conscious of how can we give people the in-person experience online where they're not just like talking in feeds. So a lot of what we do are like big giant calls with people where we are creating communities on big giant calls. And as anyone who is forced onto big calls during Zoom remembers, those calls can be horrible. Like remember Happy Birthday where we all tried to sing Happy Birthday together? Like, no, 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 nightmare. So, like, I think we've just been ahead of the curve for a long time on the community front with like that part of things, just because I was conscious of that and I was aware of that. And I've always been more, because we're a female focused group, I'm aware and privy to the limitations on women who work 1 to 2 paid jobs and then 1 to 2 unpaid jobs, caretaking and child rearing and home, running a home, and like all of the unfair division of labor. So I've just always been, how do we, like, what does that community look like where we're growing a community with women who can't show up in the way that 20-year-olds can? Like most run clubs are full of 20-year-olds because you have lots of resources and time. I get it. I get it. We're not a 20-year-old group. We have 20-year-olds, but our base is not in their 20s. Our base is 30s to 70s. So that's another, like, demographic wise, like I've just, when it comes to what the community that we build, I built for the community that needed it. So that's the work that we're doing. And I do wish more, and I'm not saying we're the only one. I'm not saying that. There's definitely other people doing it. I would just like to see more of it.
You bring such an interesting point up because I find that I community is something that's so huge for me. And yet there there are moments where I feel very disconnected from my local community, but
Mm-hmm.
very connected to my online communities. Right. And that's again been part of my 2025 where it's like, how do I reconcile that of like, I am part of the community, even if that footprint is not necessarily in person in Miami. How am I okay with that? And I'm endeavoring to go take advantage that the volleyball season is almost over, that I can go to like group runs in the evening because I just want to just say thank you for even acknowledging that because I always feel bad when it's like, but I can't be a part of local communities because I am a mom, because I
Yeah,
have to take kids here, because I have to do this for my kids, or because I have these other meetings that are going on where it's like, hey, if someone had a meeting or had a run club, which is not going to happen, but
Wednesdays at
like,
noon.
yeah, I would totally be able to make it, but I
Right.
can't. Like, yeah, if it were to happen while my kids are in school, then I can make that happen. But evening time is so challenging.
Totally.
And some Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, it's challenging as
I would,
well.
yeah, I
So,
would say most mornings are impossible. You don't have time to go to a
yeah,
thing in the morning.
yeah. So I just want to say I appreciate you acknowledging that because I find that and here in Miami, it's always so special because we've got the heat, so you'll have like there's quite a few run clubs that definitely are the no shade to them at all, but it's like the no sleep run club or like these are groups that meet up at 4 a.m. to run, and I'm like, how are y'all doing that? Like I mean
They
I
have
need time.
to.
They
It's the
have
only
to,
time
and
that works.
oh my gosh. And I'm like, I can never go to sleep early enough the night before with my kids to be able to make that happen. So there is a community for everyone. And I just, again, want to express gratitude that you're recognizing that
Yeah.
and that we don't all have the same 24 hours and we don't all have the same use in those 24 hours. So I've got like four more questions for you.
Go for it.
The first one is, if you had to make a prediction for running's growth over the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think that's going to look like?
Oh, I don't know. I think we're going to keep seeing it grow for another 2 to 3 years. And I do think we'll see it level out. I don't think we'll see, well, I don't know. I think people do find running is a really, really great tool in times of crisis. And we are in a time of crisis worldwide. So I don't anticipate the running boom ending anytime soon. Like we are truly in year one of Trump. And worldwide we're seeing unrest and everyone grappling with the fallout of a global pandemic and the trauma we all experienced, but also just like the financial ruin that is from COVID. So I definitely don't think in terms of like what is happening with the boom. I think I think it's here to stay for a while, but I do think it'll level out. I think a lot of the run clubs will die out. Run clubs are just a very hard thing to operate. So the strongest and the biggest will survive. Not the same thing. Two
Mm-hmm.
different buckets, which both great, different, but just different, Like I think, you know, they tend to have a year-long cycle where new ones pop up every year and like
Yeah.
the ones that succeed. So I do think we'll see a big die out of a lot of running clubs and communities over the next couple of years. Um, I don't know. I would love to see the smaller distances get a lot more shine. I would love to see 5Ks come back in a huge way. They're cheaper to put on. I would love to see more people get stoked about a 5K. I'm a little I mean, I'm definitely shocked at the amount of people who want to run a marathon. I
Mm-hmm.
would not have predicted that. I could not have. Most stuff I can predict, and I'm like, oh, look at you, hand on pulse. But like marathons, I did not have. I didn't predict that. I really did not think people would want to run marathons. It takes a lot of time, and resources to run a marathon, and I just didn't
Yep.
think a lot at it. So I'm shocked. Color me shocked. Um, Part of me is like, are we going to watch a lot of people sign up and not do them this year? Are we going to see major dips in participation numbers? Which maybe that's my hand on pulse. And like, look at her. She's so fucking tuned in. I don't know. Maybe I'm just cocky, just really cocky. I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried about the marathons, the amount of people running marathons because a lot of people don't have time to train for a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about people's well-being and the amount of people at least like that I'm training who want to run back-to-back running marathons. Like I'm disappointed in that. I think it's bad for you. I don't want to see people doing that. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the boom. I'm excited about it. I hope more people start running. It's a great way to, find community and just move your body in ways that help you unlearn a lot of diet culture stuff and other stuff. So I think more people doing something that was, like they were convinced you had to be a certain way or look a certain way. And then when you do it, I mean, I think the pro of a half marathon or a marathon is you do it and you go, wait a second, I'm not really skinny. What's the big idea? I was told that if I, like remove my body a lot, I would be the way that the world says I should be, and I'm not. I think that happens for most people,
Yeah.
which is good. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I feel like where we're going to see a lot of shifts is going to be in the run club communities. And I find that over the past year, it's maybe it's just because I'm in a different phase of life, but the whole idea of like the run clubs are like your new dating scene
But that's
is
always
something
been a thing.
has I feel like I
That's
see
always been a thing.
so much more of it
You're seeing
over the
articles, but
past
that's
year.
always
Okay.
been, that's all. I mean, yes. If a bunch of thirsty 20-year-olds sleeping around, like that's always been a thing in the running community.
I'm like that. See, that's what happens when, that's why I say I don't know if it's just my life experience is very different.
I think a
But
lot of
I
them are rejecting online dating and they're seeing just like how exhausting that is. So I think that's also why we're seeing a lot more like overt dating clubs for running.
yeah.
So, which I think is great. I think that's fun and I think that's great. But like, no, people always met. I mean, I would say I know 50 to 75 people who met their partners in Run Club.
That's amazing. Okay, so it's like, see, yeah, I learned something because it's what I'm seeing now, where I'm like, wait, is this a thing now? And but
Always been a thing.
I've never gone to a run club with that intention. I always go to run clubs
Really?
because I'm
Oh my God, I'm always trolling. I mean, I
no,
would say I shoot myself in the foot because Badass Lady Gang is only
listen,
ladies, and I'm like living proof that being gay is not a choice because if it were, I would be very happy.
yeah, I've been married since 2007. So
Oh
that's
yeah, you're not trolling for D at Club Run Club.
I'm looking
My
for
20s are
friends.
behind me.
I'm
Yeah,
looking for
now I look for
friends.
friends. I've given up on the find a partner in running.
I'm looking for friends. It's hard. I'm looking for running friends who don't mind doing a run walk and
Yeah.
who are okay with stopping to take pictures of a pretty sunrise. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking.
I love
I'm
that.
looking for romance in a different way. Okay, so final three questions are, can you remind us or just tell us how can we better connect with you? Where do we find you?
My
What's going
Venmo
on?
is at, I'm just kidding. You can buy an hour on my schedule. Give me your money. I'm just kidding.
Or
You
not.
can find me. No, I am. You can find me at Kelly KK Roberts, KELLY. But Badass Lady Gang, go to badassladygang.com and you'll find a way to get in touch with me or in touch with our community. Badass Lady Gang is on all socials. But I'm pretty easy to find. I work very hard to get in your face.
Hey, listen, it works. It works. It
The
works for
Kelly
me. And
Show.
listen, it started off with seeing the selfies to following you online to following your podcast. So like it works. It works. Um, what do you have coming up within running that you're excited about?
Sports Bra Squad Day. We do Sports Bra Squad Day every July. So that's always just like a really beautiful day of community of like we do a lot of resources around moving towards body image resilience, which we all know body positivity, but we also now know that body positivity is not it. Like telling people you have a good body is not, it's not the way to move. It's you have a body that deserves respect regardless of how you feel about it, period, full stop. You live in a world where diet culture is everywhere and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that preys on you not not feeling like you are enough, not beautiful enough, not skinny enough, not white enough, not whatever it is. So helping people to just like get key concepts and start to unlearn a lot of the Western beauty ideals that are out there, but also how to spot diet culture in the wild is a lot of what Sports Bra Squad has turned into. Less of ditch your shirt and just run in a sports bra, and more how can we arm you with tools and resources to help you get to a place where you can wear whatever the fuck you want to wear and not worry about it.
Yeah. Anytime I feel like I go through phases where I'm like, it's too hot, I'm just gonna go out of my sports bra. And I remember the first time I did it, it was, I feel like when you probably first launched it, because this was again years ago.
Yeah.
And the level of self-consciousness
Yeah.
that I went with going outside, I've always been,
Called self-objectification.
oh my gosh. And like, listen, when I was in middle school, one of my nicknames was the rack because my boobs were so big and like
Oh.
everything else was so like twig like.
Yeah,
So I have decades of trauma when it
for
comes to,
sure.
to the top of my body. And now forget it, going into my 40s, my body is changing. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, I mean, I'm in baggy t-shirts almost all the time because
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. So it's the messaging that you put out regarding that is so incredibly important to me because it's my body can do such incredible things, and everyone
Yeah.
who's doing and moving their body with any kind of regularity, their bodies are doing such incredible things, and yet it's amazing how we are programmed to feel like it's not enough, or like it's quote unquote ugly and shouldn't be out there when it's like, but it just is. So for me, I've started to now I try to tell myself, I'm like, all right, you're in your Aphrodite phase, right? Like the Greek
Mm.
goddess, where like if you look at art of Aphrodite, it's like just so like voluptuous. And it's like, okay, like that's it. It's the Aphrodite phase, but it's still a challenge. So
Oh yeah. It's a
just
lifelong
another
battle,
uh,
especially when, we're surrounded by just unrealistic pillars of beauty and women can't age gracefully. We're not allowed. It's just not, you can't be fat, you can't get old. It's
you can't sag, you can't have stretch marks, right?
no.
Like, come on now.
The
It's
amount of money we spend on looking younger and smaller is just it's just frustrating.
yeah. All right. Final question. And on a more positive note here. Final question is, what are your final words for us?
Hmm. Final words is I think everybody needs to learn how to walk up to strangers and introduce themselves. It is a muscle that is, like severely lacking, or it has been like equated to networking, which feels self-servicey and, gross. When in reality, as human beings, we crave connection. And I just think we've gotten away from neighbors, which I guess that's too blanket of a statement because that's not true. I know a lot of people who are really, really in touch with their neighbors. I just wish more people were better at introducing themselves in environments, you know.
Yeah, it's if we're going to do this hard thing called running, then we can also do this hard thing of introducing ourselves to others,
Yeah.
right? It's just another face out there of someone who knows you and who can take care of you.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Kelly, thank you so, so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining me and talking just all things running and running boom and where running's at, where it's going to go. I really, really appreciate you joining me today. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time. Bye.
So sweet, Stephanie.